So, boys, this time around, we have decided to discuss the Oscar-nominated movie 1917, particularly about its cinematography. But I think the fanboy also has a lot more to talk about. So, without further ado, let's start with the elephant in the room, the one cut or the one take.
Okay, so what were you saying, like about the one cut versus the one take thing?
Like one take is the movie, and in essence looks like a one continuous sequence, whereas one cut would imply that it has a cut somewhere. It's like those TV, like they have on TV, right? Only one break movie
Yeah.
versus on Netflix, no breaks, like that.
Oh, okay. So when I titled it as one cut, I meant that there is only one place where where there is some sort of a cut, right?
Yeah,
When
or is there?
the
Yeah.
screen essentially goes black, right? So when I titled that part as a one cut thing, so I felt like there's only one cut right between, like there is only one place where you can see a transition kind of a thing that is happening when the when he gets shot in his head after crossing the bridge, right?
Yep.
But
So
would you
that
call
is
it a cut?
Yeah, I mean, it's technically a cut, and director also accepts his other cut. So,
No, but
if you,
then it's more like the first person view, right? If you like when you black out, the screen goes black with that.
we can say that,
So
but
I like yeah, this was funny. So I was watching this movie with my grandfather. Okay.
hmm,
And like when that scene occurred, because how the movie is placed throughout, it's a continuous thing. And this scene, the black part holds on, right? I think 5-10
hmm,
seconds at least.
yeah,
Mhm.
So he was like, did it stop? Did something break here? Are we still playing? So
so
yeah, in that way, it does feel like a cut, but I think it conveys the feelings more, right, of blacking out.
and it was kind of
See,
an
we
intentional
we
for the director wanted to show the two parts, like a daylight part and the night part, and
Mhm.
the length of that black screen is sort of that long because he wanted the audience to get conveyed that okay, like he has been like short, or like he has like something has happened to him, and when he wakes up, so he doesn't know like where he is, how much time has passed, has it been a day or like some hours. And so for that, like this stretch the what is it, the black still.
And it also adds to the dread you feel, right? Because
Ex-
like from the beginning, you know they are on a they're basically running against the clock.
Yeah, yeah.
and might I like to add, whether we categorize that as a cut or not, that scene is awesome. Like
Yes, very much so.
like very much so. And I think Kshitij might have some points to add to this.
Kshitij might want to
Ah,
disagree, but before Kshitij disagrees, I would like to like carry on with this of how
Right?
like in this movie particularly, I felt even the slow scenes were very engaging, and like they had a proper build up. Like they served as the build up for the action scenes. So there was no temptation as such to skip it or fast forward it ahead.
I would kind of disagree with it. So,
Yes,
some
yes,
say,
we were expecting that.
yeah, thanks.
That he tried so much to steer away from Gajapuri disagreeing at the start, but still, like, oh my god.
Yes,
Uh,
the force is too strong with this one.
Please continue.
yeah, like when the movie starts and they're walking through the trenches,
Mm-hmm.
and the camera is like in front of them for a long time. So initially I was okay with it, but after some minutes, I was kind of getting tired. Like, okay, nothing much is happening in that scene. They are walking, and
Uh,
so
Oh my god, fanboy! I did not
seriously,
expect this from you. I did not expect this
seriously.
from you. That
what?
hurts.
I mean, okay, firstly, I don't think that scene even spans minutes. Like the slow walking for minutes. So the
Yeah,
only part where they're slow walking is in the initial part, right? When they're going to sort of get their mission.
yeah. I think it was after that, like, but
See,
it
see.
And
was
yeah,
yeah,
so if you're talking about after that, when they're actually going to head out, it's more of a frantic thing, right? Because one guy is all emotionally toiled up. It's like, I need to save my brother. And the other guy is trying to put some reason into him that, yeah, we can still wait it. We
yeah.
have time.
Wait, Kshitij, is that the scene you have the problem with?
No, I think it's the before one, like
He's
when
talking
they're
about the one
going
before
for.
that, when
Yeah,
he
so
they're
Yeah, yeah.
old.
My
that
mistake, my
that
mistake.
doesn't really stretch, right?
See,
I
Rakesh,
was kind of
let's not
getting
attack the straw man in
restless.
where was that minutes or was that seconds. But Kshitij, right?
Yeah.
Like what I personally wanted to appreciate from that sequence is that
Mhm.
when they're moving down, there is so many things that you see, right? Like if you don't focus on the person, right? So if you notice the camera also shifts along and you see the things that it wants you to focus on. Like the framing is so good at times. Like if the person like if one of the characters at front, you can see the other character at the back doing something, and then the camera goes and focuses on that front. So that entire sequence is not that you just focus on the person in front who's walking. You also have to look at the other things, and that in for me what it did is that it showed you a very good uh, depiction of what life in the trenches would be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Like with that one, like okay, they are also showing the others in the perspective as well. But
Mhm.
like for some reason, like at the beginning of the movie when I was watching it, I kind of felt a little unrest. Like okay, like there should have been a cut here, and
This
there
is
were some
the MTV
places.
generation.
What?
The MTV generation. So low on attention
no,
spans.
no,
Yeah.
no. I think it's his unrest in not getting dates for his exam. Might
Ah,
be.
that's
No, no,
possible.
no.
That's also
But
possible.
So
yeah, like
it
what
was
Shreya said perfectly captures what. Like you see someone writing a diary, you see people sleeping, you see them, just having like
yeah,
enjoying their calm before
yeah,
the storm.
yeah. So it's
And there's
like
also one scene that very like this is a thing that happens after they receive their mission objectives also. But then like I think this scene is something that really sticks into my mind. So when the guy who was given the mission, he rushes forward, right, and the other person is
yeah,
slowly walking forward, and then around the corner you start hearing loud voices. So you get an idea, right? He rushed into someone and now they are fighting. And then the
yeah,
camera very calmly follows the other person back and you see them in a scuffle. And then the person suddenly realizes, oh shit, like there's something serious is going on. Then he rushes to him and like tries to calm things down. So like the way they went about executing that is so mind blowing. And like the entire movie is littered with things like this.
yeah. True. But I kind of feel that the movie have been a little more better with like if it had some cuts. So by shooting it in a single cut, they have kind of restricted the potential of the movie. Means making it in a single cut is a great thing and it takes a lot of effort to achieve it. But the story or the way all of the things were like the setting and the camera scenes. So like at some points, if there were some cuts, then the experience would have been more engaging and the movie would have been a more like a little better.
Kshitij very
While
nicely, na?
Kshitij, while Kshitij, you are
Diplomatically.
entitled to your feelings. I am not entitled to respect them. Sorry. So I totally disagree with that. I think what they're trying to show here, the life in trenches, how World War One actually was for the people at the front line. That is something you need to appreciate, particularly
Actually,
because we have not been through that era personally.
And
Like we have not
that
lived in
could
that
have
era, right?
yeah, but that could have been portrayed with cuts as well. There's
So
no
that is
necessary
the thing, right?
reason
There,
to
like
making the movie in
almost
a single
all
cut.
scenes, also almost all scenes in this movie, like the length, like for example, if you're walking through those trenches and it takes you 5 minutes, then that scene of those trenches will also be 5 minutes long.
I'm okay, they cut from like start of the trench to the end of the trench. But there
Like,
are some points that have constraints like when you need to shift the perspective dramatically or there are some points when you need to have cuts. So at those points the movie is kind of restricted with that, like where they have to pan the camera and all of the things. So it kind of at some point eases the tension a little bit.
I see, like I don't like for me, right? So the entire one cut aspect made the entire experience so much more immersive. It's like in all these movies and like when you contrast specifically war movies and war games like Battlefield and all things, right? A lot of times the games games become very, very more immersive because you know what is happening each step of the way.
Yeah.
And even then you have sometimes cutscenes that come into the middle and
Yeah.
which jars people away. So for me specifically, this movie has been one of the most immersive wartime experiences that I remember
Oh,
at this point.
interesting.
And I think it can be entirely attributed to the one cut thing.
Okay.
One take, one cut, whatever
Yeah.
thing.
For me, it was kind of opposite.
Yeah, judging by what you said,
Yeah.
it feels like that.
Means there was an internal urge to like, okay, then it's like you need to have a cut here, like you need to change the perspective. It can be shot in a better way from some other angle, but you can't because you have to make the illusion of a single cut.
I never disagreed with someone so much.
Yes. Plus one on that. I mean, like all those points that you're saying, I think they're all fluff. Strong words, but yeah, because it's like if you want a different perspective, they're not restricting themselves like always following the character. Sometimes they're leading the character, sometimes they're following it. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's from above, sometimes it's from below. So it's not like the one take thing has restricted them in perspective. They could have
means
easily shown the trend scene from above if they wanted to.
yeah, like there are some things like which you show like by having jump cuts or a sudden change in perspective between two person. So that kind of things.
Like so I guess each of the things have their own merits, right? And the
Yeah.
like the experience, like the work of the people making the movie is to identify what is it and then try to go end on it. So like
Yeah.
if you look at this, for me the one take thing was a thing that allowed me to get immersed in what is happening like completely. So, but then if you contrast that with something like Sherlock, right? So they have so many times, right? Where in one scene they have so many cuts from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing, and the editors in that scenario they very nicely use it to convey how what would it be like to be in Sherlock's mind, right?
Coffee table on the left-hand side, coffee mug handle pointing to the left. Power sockets, habitually use the ones on the left. Pen and paper on the left-hand side of the phone because he picked it up with his right and took down messages with his left.
So
Yeah.
things like that. So like I don't know. I think we can. I think it comes to personal taste. I find it very hard to believe what the points you're saying, but I guess okay. Everybody, like Randy said,
He's
everybody
entitled
had.
to his opinion,
Yeah.
but since the movie won Best Cinematography, I think your opinions are wrong.
Nice.
No, like see, for the best cinematography, it won because it has a like a kind of a selling point or like the thing that we have achieved, like to have the illusion of the movie being shot in a single take. So for that, like
Actually,
they
yeah,
deserve the cinematography, but they didn't win the best picture. Like,
yeah. Fanboy makes sense
I
in
was
that
going to
front.
talk about that. So, like the reason that they didn't probably win Best Picture was not because like the movie lacked in its direction or screenplay, but more because of its story per se. I mean, like what they have depicted is a very, very, very thin slice of World War One. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah, yeah.
very like focused in. It does not generalize
There's no
out, or you
message.
cannot. Yeah, there is no message. You cannot apply it to your own life, or you
yeah,
cannot take something with you from it.
Exactly. Huh.
isn't that the whole thing because of the single take? Like there's so little you can show in a single take in a single day or a single like or a fixed period of time.
No, not really, right? So if you
Yeah.
what Gajapur said, right? So like what kind of a story can we tell in a in if it was just focused in that amount of time, like
So I think like they would have to give up on their principle of having scenes that take exactly as much time in real life.
Mhm.
If you were to maybe remove that, then maybe you could have added a few more parts here and there instead of
Mhm.
the entire thing being just an epic journey of two people.
But yeah, that
But
I,
like
I
yes,
I
I
think
mean uh,
the point that he made did does carry point, like I will have to give him that.
yeah, so we are not
Yeah,
saying that
definitely.
his points are completely baseless. At least I'm not saying that.
Ouch.
I'm not saying that. So
Oh my god.
yeah, but
Raki
that
burns.
is the thing, right? Like I think one take is a cinematographic choice, and using it or not using it will, while it will change how you record the movie or direct the movie, but what kind of movie you can direct is, I think, a different story altogether.
It's like you like if you want to show two scenes which are like two different perspectives in a war, like from two different sides, so you can't do that thing in a single take.
You can if you want to. You'll have to pan the camera from the first person to the second person.
No, I'm saying like
So
if a
Wouldn't
first
that be
person
very
is on
jarring?
one side and
like
second person
not
is
that way,
on the
right?
other side,
Like
like
yeah, think of the scene where the I think penultimate scene or something
the
where he's
right,
running.
right. Like, so I'm saying
Yes,
like the two persons from whose perspective you want to show are at two different
exactly.
places.
Yeah. I'm coming to that. Like the
Yeah,
penultimate scene where all those guys are running, the first wave of the attack.
yeah,
So you
Okay.
can start with the general in the tent, show his ideologies, then pan over to a person who is running in the front wave, and then you can switch over to the other general. Or
yeah,
like first transition to the first wave of the enemy force and then switch over to the general. Like you can have a, like as they show, they have an aerial view, right, where it's not
yeah,
focused on a single person of the first
yeah,
wave. So you can
yeah,
use something like that and then go over to the general of the enemy forces. So while that the only thing that would be restrictive is you won't be able to show both of them in the same time, and by time I
yeah,
mean in the cinematic time.
yeah,
So that is a
I don't
limit.
know.
Sure.
I don't know, Rafi. I do think like the choosing a one take thing would severely restrict some things. Like a lot of times, right? What a lot of other good war. Take Battlefield, right? Battlefield, the game, for instance. Uh,
Mhm.
so one thing, what it does very nicely is that it shows you different points of view in the war that are going on in the same time.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like, I don't know how you would be able to capture something like that, because when you're restricted to just having a one take thing. For me again, right? So the one take thing would be very a very good thing to show you how a person develops in a short amount of time.
So no. So you're restricting one take. Like one take doesn't have to be what 1917 has done, right? If you like, there are multiple types of transitions that you can use. If you use something like a motion blur type of transition, you can easily pan over to a second person or a different person without the audience, clearly recognizing or having a jarring feel.
Oh, so like using motion blurs and all that, then I don't know. If not done properly, then people would just label it as a cop out, right? Like
yeah.
That is true for
they
everything,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So
even if you
I
don't
think
have
there are
any.
examples out there. I think there are examples out there which we could look for. I think the video that there was a very nice video which talked about how they went right. So they mentioned Alfred Hitchcock's one
Rope,
movie of Alfred Hitchcock's
rope, rope.
and Birdman, right?
Yeah.
So I think it would be a good thing to see how they go about these things.
So rope, I think may not be a good candidate because, like, while I give hats off to Hitchcock for accomplishing something like that in 1948, but and like in today's world, I think those transitions might be a bit obvious
Oh,
how to
okay, okay,
carry it out.
okay.
Like if you've seen those things, like they zoom into someone's jacket or something, a single color object.
No,
But
no.
like,
So
there are transitions where take Casino Royale, for instance, the opening sequence. So they have a scene where he is coming out from inside a building onto the ledge outside. And the building inside is in London, the ledge outside is in Mexico.
Oh, wait. Is it Casino Royale
Oh,
or Spectre?
I think Casino Royale opening scene, maybe Spectre, I don't know. One of the Bond movies, recent Bond movies, where the entire thing, the entire Mexican festival, something is going on. Maybe Spectre. Yeah,
Okay.
it's
mhm.
Spectre. Spectre. Yeah, so in that
But
scene, they have one transition, which does not look like a transition, but they switch over from London to Mexico.
Hmm.
no, So why I'm really interested in Alfred Hitchcock per se, because I think all these detective crime dramas, right? They could be a very good candidate for this one take thing, in my opinion, because you have this detective who comes and then he's interviewing, so and everything happens in a very close knit scene,
That would
right?
require some serious planning, right? Because like if you think of most of the detective dramas, you get a feeling that they like when the great secret is revealed at the end,
Hmm.
you get a feeling that if you were actually there, you probably would have figured it out yourself because some of the information was not given to you,
Exactly.
or
No, so yeah, definitely there'll be
or
a lot of
accidentally
planning in.
hidden from you. Yeah,
So that's why, right? I mentioned like when you decide to do a one take thing, your writing becomes that much more difficult in how are you going to show everything, right?
it's
Yeah.
All
it's
the
not an
plot
easy
points and
thing,
all
but
that.
I think you
Yeah.
can still achieve a lot. Like it won't
Uh,
be as restrictive as you two are pointing it to be.
no, no. So I for like the way I okay. So I think restrictive might have been the wrong word, but I'm what I meant to capture by the word restrictive was that there is a lot of effort that will be needed to be put in both in not just the editing and the stitching together department, but also the people who write the
Yes.
story itself.
The effort is
Yeah.
also like very true points because even for 1917 they had so much effort they
Exactly,
put in.
exactly,
Like they had
exactly.
mini sets of all these shots they have.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Because the video I think both of us saw, in that they mention a lot of effort that is being put into the planning and the set design and all of that things.
Mhm.
But what I specifically want to focus on, there's another thing that I don't really feel they talk about that much is in the writing of the story, right?
Yeah.
So
And was the
like
director was like he has scored in the movie.
okay, I think they do
Yeah.
mention that in the credits. Okay, so I guess everything went along together. Okay,
Yeah.
so the
Yes.
planning and the things went together.
It has
Okay,
to be one
understood.
together.
It
It has
actually,
to
yeah,
be a
it
one
has to
take.
be.
It has to be a one take from the beginning.
It has to be okay. So all the planning for production, everything will have to also be integrated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, that was a super long discussion
Yeah.
on the one take aspect. But the movie also uses its sound just as effectively.
Exactly.
And I mean, the particular things that stand out is like recently a lot of places, like maybe not movies as such, but more TV or music videos, YouTube videos. Like they kind of like literally bombard you with audio. There is like a good example was why Beethoven's symphony is so impactful. Is because right before the crescendo, there's like a period of silence to allow for the build-up. It's not just full like 24/7 bombardment of audio on you.
Yeah.
And the same is here. Like they have proper build-ups to scenes, and maybe in the most impactful scenes, it's just pin drop silence,
Yeah.
no audio as such to distract you from the serious mood. So I particularly like the soundtrack. I mean, after watching the movie, I had the feeling of missing the experience of watching it in a theater,
That definitely was there.
which is not true with a lot of movies, right? You sometimes don't feel that. So that is why I rewatch some of the scenes with my headphones. Man, it is such a different experience.
Why didn't you watch it in the first place with your headphones? Is what I was thinking.
I was watching with my grandfather.
Ah, fair enough. We can't really say much things about that then. So did
Watching
he like
movies.
the movie?
Yes.
Nice,
I mean, he's interested in war movies, so I'm
Oh,
like,
that's nice.
watch
That's
watch this with me.
nice. Yeah.
Anyways, what are your opinions? What is the
So
subversion that you wanted to talk about?
okay, so let me prelude it with yes, the soundtrack is very very good, but then okay, well I don't know if this is a negative thing or a positive thing or a neutral thing, but there isn't any soundtrack that really stood out to me, like any specific moment, any specific soundtrack that stood out to me. So I
Matlab,
don't
it
know.
is more of a symphony type of thing, right? You can't
Yeah,
pinpoint.
orchestral.
It's not very
Exactly.
unique. That is true.
It's, yeah. So like that's why again, sir, right? There are a lot of times when you look at other shows, right? So there is that one specific soundtrack when you listen to it, it elicits that exact response. So like in Naruto, you have those soundtracks that get you the moment you start listening to it, you get hyped at once. Then there is that one soundtrack from A Silent Voice.
Deja
If you
vu.
listen, Deja Vu, yeah. So this movie really lacks in those aspects, but then again, that's I don't know if that's a negative thing or a neutral thing. But
Hmm.
Kshitij, you want to add something on this point?
Does it need
I
that
will
kind
let
of
you correct
thing?
something.
Yeah, that's what right. I'm saying it does not need to have some memorable soundtrack. If it is doing
Yeah.
the thing that it was designed to do, that is improve the immersiveness in the movie, then it did a very good job, definitely.
Yeah.
And when I talk about the subversion, right? So is like specifically like there are the sound design in this movie very nicely tells you how to feel, right? So in the action-packed scenes, a lot of times it is very action-packed music, and then in the slow burner scenes, you have a little bit more calm melodic tone to it. But
I
then
won't say like tells you how to feel, but more like mirrors your feelings.
Yeah, like
again, okay, ठीक है, again,
It is not
wrong
like a
choice of word.
premonitory tone. This is what is going to happen. No.
मतलब it mirrors what you feel, but
Yeah.
what the movie very nicely does is that on that bridge scene, right, when he's crossing it, when he jumps, you have that hype moment when he's about to jump, and then he jumps. Then the music starts to calm down, and then suddenly, boom, then a shot comes. I got so shit scared at that point.
Yeah.
It's
It
like,
was a repeat from Dunkirk, right? Initial silence, and
ah,
then you have that shot.
exactly. So like the way the music was designed in that thing was as to that the climax of the thing was when he jumped, right? And then
That
that
scene,
shot,
also in the initial scene when they're about to enter the German bunker,
yeah.
like that was a crescendo that stood out to me particularly.
uh, so the way they have used their design is so good. Like,
But it's
all of
not
us are not just
memorable
fanboy.
or serious.
Huh?
Like, I don't know. Yeah, so you talked about the bridge scene. So just to prove that I'm not a fanboy, let's critique some things.
Oh, okay.
Like,
Let's go.
for the
Let's
bridge
go.
scene, I felt a little lack of continuity because it's like you've just been dropped off from a truck. The truck is pretty much just like bumbling along, slow speeds. So by the time, and there's also the fact that you have a guy who's now walking on the edge of a broken bridge and is going to make a jump. So like the people in the truck would know that. I most likely they would be waiting around like for a few minutes at least just to see him make the jump.
Hmm.
Or even if they are like heartless wrenches, okay, tata bye bye, they'd still be close by to hear the shot.
Yeah.
And which is where I felt a point of discontinuity. Is like if so many shots are being fired, I think at least a few people would have asked, like, let's stop, go and inspect what is happening.
There were a
I
lot
don't.
of moments like this. Like at some points, I felt the like show was very lucky, and
Lucky,
like
yes,
See,
there
there
were
were
points of luck.
too much coincidences.
Kshitij,
Coincidences,
Kshitij.
no. I
One
felt
minute, 1 minute.
lucky.
Rati, 1 minute. So, Kshitij, right?
Hmm.
You get these kind of comments a lot of times in movies, right? Like the thing is so convenient, and then all of this happens. So,
It's like
what?
for
No,
a
no. So
like
no, Kshitij,
okay.
what I want you to like, what I want get across is that specifically in all of these cases, what happens is that they are lucky a lot of times, and they are very unlucky many times, right? And the entire idea of them of this lucky unlucky balance is that like if that hadn't happened, right, if they didn't survive at the end, there would be no movie, right?
Yeah,
So
but
you know how it is going to end. So if there
but
are certain points when he is coincident where there is a coincidence, especially in war movies and movies that which deal with disaster, the people who come out at the end alive were lucky. There is no other way around it.
but So of course, like the scene where he finds the like milk in the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
So just after like, so it was fresh milk, and just
Mhm.
after that, like we see cows like being shot with machine guns.
Mm.
So why was that just one particular cow was like spared, as well as like why was the bucket full of like fresh milk, which he eventually needed like while he encountered the baby. So it was kind of too forced kind of a thing for me to like digest through.
Like for that, what I would argue, right? So a war is a very, very um, I want to use okay, I guess we could beep it out. It's a very fucked up time, right? So things happen. A lot of shit goes down. So many things happen. And what I felt, right, specific, and there are things there certain things happen. They overlook shooting one cow, right? And these things, what they show is, right, like these essentially are symbols of hopes in a way, right? So it's like when life gives you lemon, you try to make lemonade. So you find fresh milk, you store it, and then you find a baby, you
No, no,
give it
so
to it.
I think like one part maybe you might have missed, Kshitij, was like
Mhm.
the horror that they were trying to capture what Sirius was saying. So the reason, like you have a bucket of fresh milk, it did not, like the cow did not put it there. So someone must have milked the cow.
Yeah,
Since it's fresh, it was probably done a little earlier in the day.
yeah,
And what you are seeing, the scene that is painted there, is the entire orchard cut down, all those houses burned, all
yeah.
that. So I think what they were trying to get across was how quickly like something can go from being okay to being like shit hitting the fan level.
Uh, no, so like I think it was not exactly that. Like the portion on the German side, so the like most probably the cow was built by the soldiers because you won't have any civilians in that part of like so near to the like no man's land.
Kshitij, in a
Yeah,
war, you cannot rationalize things. You cannot.
Yeah, there
You
there very might likely be a farmer, one of those obstinate, maybe slightly older farmer who's like, no, I'm not going to leave this place. This is my homeland. This is where I've lived my entire life.
like you cannot rationalize such things, right? There can like a war is a very, very unrational time.
yeah, true.
And
And this is
what
all
what
speculation. That is true. But
exactly. And
yeah,
so what I think, right? So what this specific thing that you talked about, like when you are in tough times, you have to make do with what you have and share the happiness as you go along.
Yeah,
That's all you can do. And so so that's why, right? I don't. It doesn't really sit well with me when people start saying, "Oh, this person was so lucky and all that." Yeah, obviously he was lucky. He survived a fucking war. Obviously he was lucky.
that's true. But it shouldn't feel like a plot device just to like move on the story or to add some emotion to the story. Like that
Uh,
feels kind of
like the
unnatural.
entire point that the story exists is because he was lucky. And if you're talking about unnatural, it's like the I think you're talking about the scene where he's running and they all miss the shots.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
like
so that is like think about it. It's World War One. Your rifles are not sophisticated. You are all running and you're shooting. You're taking pot shots literally. And these shots are close. I think that is a good enough sign of like the fact that they were trained riflemen.
yeah,
Like
but
while none
there
of
are
them hit him, that is okay. That is lucky, but that is why he survived. And like why it did not feel very much forced to me was also because of the opening scene where they're just initially crossing those wires. Like he's not all happy there, right? He gets his hand cut, then he puts his hand through a dead German, then he gets blown.
yeah.
So that set the tone for me that this is not all forced. It is not all just convenient plot devices.
in
Um,
such situations, you have to balance the luckiness and the unluckiness that people happen, I guess.
yeah, but
Yes,
like maybe it's a personal thing. So
yes.
Maybe.
yeah,
It has.
Like if you were to have like a very realistic drama, it probably ended like the first 5 minutes. A random stray bullet hits you and you die.
Exactly,
But
exactly,
see,
exactly.
there shouldn't be too much plot armor. Like a little bit of plot armor is okay.
Are you kidding me with plot
Like
armor?
plot armor
Seriously?
is a wrong thing. Like I'm not getting the word. Like some story devices or like a little help from, like from the creators, that kind of thing. But
Bro, if you I assume you have read Diary of a Young Girl, right?
no, I haven't.
No, okay. So you know the general idea, right? Like
Uh,
it is essentially the memoirs of a girl who is stuck in, so who is hiding in Nazi Germany, right?
And
okay.
Frank,
And Frank, yeah, and Frank.
Jungle. Seriously. Shreyas,
What
my
happened?
boy.
What?
It is the diary of Anne Frank, not the diary of a young girl.
I think it is the Diary of a Young Girl.
Oh,
All right. Swiftly moving on.
Wait. It is a Diary of a Young
What?
Girl. You can search it on net.
Okay. But you should, I think, mention Anne
So,
Frank to give context.
okay, that I'll agree. That I'll agree. So in
Uh,
that, right? So there are so many multiple times they have the German soldiers coming for a random house inspection, and they miss that one specific location. Would you call that plot armor? Kshitij?
Shit is now
uh,
being grilled.
yeah, but I haven't read it, so I actually don't.
No. See, I'm just saying, like you are hiding behind a bookshelf, and
Hmm.
the Germans 4 to 5 times for do not check behind the bookshelf. Is that plot armor? No, that
Like,
is life. That's it. You are lucky sometimes. That's it.
And that
And
is
then
why
the
you
day
get
you're
to read the memoirs of Anne Frank.
that is why that is why it is famous, because she was lucky for long enough that she wrote a very big, very disturbing account of life in hiding.
okay.
So I guess this is a sore spot for me. That's why I grilled him a little too much. Obviously, people are entitled to their own opinions.
Are they now? After grilling Kshitij for like 10-15 minutes, he's like, yeah, you are entitled to your opinions.
Like the warriors are like, okay, you can keep that line. Have fun.
Anyways, moving on from the serious nature that we had recently acquired, thanks to Shreyas getting heated up.
Sorry
Kshitij,
about
you had Kshitij, you had something to say about uh, some more blunders that you had spotted.
Yeah, so did you guys like in the last scene when he's running across the battlefield
Mm-hmm.
towards the general? So
Yeah.
you see one guy bumps into him and they both fall, but the second guy didn't like get up. Like he just stays there.
Okay.
he could have
So
sprained his ankle for all you know. Why is that a blunder?
Bro, it's like one hit KO. Like they
like
collide
so
and it's
it
just
could have,
lying still. Like
Oh my
if you
god!
think about it, it can also be like his mental state, right? He may never want to be the, opening part of the opening force. Is like he's now in such
yeah,
a dazed state, he just wants to lie down. He's like,
yeah,
I'm
that can
not
be
going
true.
any
Yeah,
forward.
yep. Like many soldiers may have done that.
And you also know why, like one more reasoning is like you all might have read the scene was an accident,
Oh, it
right?
was it?
Yeah,
You
that was
don't know.
actually an accident.
Oh,
It was
okay.
an accident and it turned out to be the best scene of the movie. But anyways, so since it was an accident, maybe the double did not know what to do. So he was like, I'm lying
Yeah,
down. Hit him dead.
yeah. Okay, so that can be true. Yeah.
Even if that is not true, right? Up two people crash, one person gets up immediately, one person does not. How is that a blunder? That other person could have twisted his ankle while falling down. He might have hit his head while falling down.
You
You
just
don't know.
don't stay there like a dead person.
You
Like
could
he
have
just
died.
completely
He
stopped.
fell down. He fell down in a
No,
war zone.
it was a normal collision. It wasn't like he was falling and the random bullet hit it. Maybe that may have also been like, that can also
There
happen.
could
So
be a spike for all you know. My God, this is nitpicking to another level.
Yes.
that was kind of funny for me. Like when I was watching, like I was like, oh shit, he didn't get that.
I think we should move on from the blunder.
Yeah,
Serious, my boy. Unable to control his feelings.
Yeah, no.
Do we even have
I,
any?
sh- I mean, we did, like, we spent too much time talking about the one cut, but did not give enough time to the characters and their acting.
Ah, the
And
characters, right?
yeah,
That is, I think, what the last one that we have. But
I think so,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, I think like has this actor played anything before? Like I haven't seen him.
no, I think both of them were relatively unknown actors.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like because for that the facial expressions that they give out and the acting that
Oh,
they have, my God,
my
on
God,
point.
on point. Oh, really good
He's,
acting.
he's getting excited now. Yes, seriously, please control your feelings for a few more minutes.
Yeah, yeah. But really very on point acting and very memorable characters also, actually. Look at it.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
not just the two main casts, like even the side characters that you had, right? So you had the general when they were passing them along. Then you have the general who, not general, but some high ranking officer who meets him in the convoy, right?
Hmm.
Then
yeah,
then you have Benedict Cumberbatch. So it's like all of the characters were so memorable. Like that's another thing that I really love about the movie.
yeah. Another thing like that was pretty good was like they have a build up for like the general to be a bad person or just hungry for more blood. And when we
That
had like,
they have shown actually. So not about the general, but like there's often mentioned that enemy forces or any like one enemy soldier saved by the enemy force, and then they end up being good friends or something.
yeah,
But here you show see the complete opposite, right? Like people willing to die for their country when they pull out the German pilot from the plane,
mhm.
they literally saved his life and what he does in return.
I mean most likely it's like that only because you never know like why the other person is saving you. They may be saving you to like
Exactly. Ha, ha, ha.
torture you later, like to just to instruct information. So
That
it's
is that
better
is true,
like
but like
to
at like I have read uh, it in places. Like sometimes the enemy force saves you or lets you go.
So those are the things that are more quote unquote marketable, right? So those are
Yes,
the things those that sell books, and this is the dark underbelly that is not talked about, where
yeah,
you're the savior is killed by the person who was saved.
yeah. It's like okay, I'm gonna take one more person with me,
Yeah,
one less soldier.
Yeah, but that is what I like how they do not stray away from showing the true reality, make you realize the horrors of war to the
Yeah, I mean,
core.
mm,
like
mm,
it's
Like
all there.
particularly that message when the high-ranking officer gives out, make sure you have a witness when you meet the major.
exactly.
That is
But
like a
even the,
key.
then when you but then when you meet the major also, right? You can get a feeling of where he is coming from, right? Because
Yeah,
that was a lot of times you tell them to pull back one day and suddenly the next the high command tells, okay, now attack.
yeah, like
So
because the guy's just hoping that okay, this may be a different day than the previous ones. Like we may
Yeah.
mhm,
finally break their formation. Like we may have a breakthrough. We may be one step closer to finishing this war.
I think that was the most powerful line that they delivered after that. Hope is a dangerous thing.
Yeah,
hope is a dangerous thing.
And on
But
this
then
powerful line we shall end. Hope
yeah,
is a very dangerous thing.
yeah,
Or do you have anything to add?
okay, but the only thing is like it's very ironic, right? So the entire movie is around that hope aspect, and then how it counterplays on itself in a way.
Exactly. Hope is a dangerous thing.
Hope is a dangerous thing, but it is what keeps humanity going forward.
yeah.
Come on, without hope, who would be like just imagine life in those trenches? Who would be living?
Exactly, exactly.
So yeah,
That's
happy.
right.
It's nice to be finally agreeing with Kshitij again. Good thing we put that section in the middle.
More like making Kshitij agree with you in the end.
It was
I don't
natural,
know.
like
It was organic. No scripts,
Hmm.
no scripts.
Hmm.